All right. So today we are going to start 5.5, which is function operations. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to combine functions by addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division and identify the domain of the result. You should also be able to compose functions, specifying the order in which the functions are applied and describe the domain of the composite function. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to recall what domain is. Your domain is the set of all possible x values that makes the function work. The set of all possible x values that make eraser. That make the function work. Okay, so how do you define the sum f plus g and the difference f minus g of the functions where the function f of x is defined as 3x plus 4 and the function g of x is defined as x squared minus 5x plus 2. So we have some new notation here. Our new notation is this f plus g. And what that's really just saying is you're taking your f of x function and you're adding it to your g of x function. Okay. So part A says, what is the sum of f of x and g of x? So we are going to say that f plus g, that's the sum of those two functions, is going to be the f of x function, which we say is 3x plus 4, plus the g of x function, which is x squared minus 5x plus 2. And when we combine functions, f sub n is, or f small n is a way to abbreviate functions. When we combine functions, what we're really thinking about doing is combining like terms. So here, when I look at this, I'm going to say f plus g is going to equal, well, I have this x squared here and no other x squared. And then I have 3x here, negative 5x there. So that's going to give me negative 2x. And then I have a 4 and a 2, and they're being added. So that's going to give me 6. So f plus g gives me x squared plus 2x plus, or sorry, x squared minus 2x plus 6. Now we have to talk about the domain. The domain is going to be the overlap of f of x and g of x. So when I look at f of x and I think about what the domain is, the domain for f of x, well, I could put any x value in there and still get a real output. So I'm going to call that domain all reals. Remember, that's that fancy R, or you could write all reals. The domain of g of x, okay, here's g of x. Again, I could put anything into that function, so its domain is all reals. So then the domain of f plus g of x is the overlap of these two. Well, all reals and all reals overlap at all reals. Okay. Part B says, what is the difference of f of x and g of x? So that's the function f minus the function g. So that's going to be 3x plus 4. And I'm subtracting from that my x squared minus 5x plus 2. So that will give me my 3x plus 4. Then we have to distribute this negative, so it's going to become subtract x squared plus 5x minus 2. Okay. And then again, we're just going to combine like terms. So I have this negative x squared. I have a 3x and a 5x, which gives me a positive 8x. And I have a 4 and a negative 2, which gives me a positive 2. So f minus g of x is negative x squared plus 8x plus 2. When we go to find the domain, well, we already said the domain of f of x was all reals. The domain of g of x was all reals. So the domain of f minus g is all reals. So that's example 1.